They're here, Surf Tracker 13's Marty V. Marty, good morning.
And good morning, and thankfully we're not going to have to worry about anything from the tropics. It's about the only thing we seem to be able to avoid in the weather department around here, so we get up just a little bit of everything else that things. It's probably a safe bet. Mortgage Solutions Financial showing it's a little bit breezy this morning. If we could keep the wind where it's at now, it probably wouldn't be too much of an issue for us, but it is going to pick up with time. Beautiful blue sky area-wide. Temperatures that are comfortably cool right now along the I-25 corridor in the 50s and 60s. The wind has not settled down entirely over the far eastern plains, and so we've stirred the atmosphere up enough to keep it in the 70s even through early this morning. And we did have temperatures around 100 again yesterday, so it's been pretty hot out there across the plains. Crisp and cool up over the mountains and mountain valleys. 30s and 40s are pretty common up there this morning. Has to do with the dry air, by the way, which is pretty obvious here on FUTURECAST. We'll have a hard time mustering even a few clouds around, I think, across the area today. Have to get way up into northwestern Colorado to find any of that. But what you do see are all these little white lines kind of crammed together, and that's just an indication of the wind picking up once again. It's the reason that we have concerns about fire weather today. High temperatures in the 80s and 90s along the I-25 corridor will likely hit the lower 100s again along the Arkansas River, say from about La Junta eastward. We'll expect 60s and 70s over the high country with 70s to lower 80s over the mountains and mountain valleys. I think around the Pikes Peak region, the coolest air, not surprisingly, will be found around Teller County, where we're going to be in the 70s. And we'll have low to mid 80s for much of the day around Colorado Springs, but from downtown southward, mid to upper 80s are more likely. Again, the wind, while not as strong as yesterday's, probably going to be routinely running between about 15 and 30 miles an hour, and occasionally we could have some gusts around 40. Looking for low to mid 90s from Pueblo westward through Canyon City. Wet Mountain Valley looks nice. Westcliff probably only in the mid 70s today. Otherwise, we'll look for 80s, nestled up against the wet mountains this afternoon. But again, there's going to be some significant wind at times, which will be a drawback to the weather today. And then tonight, no real changes. I mean, the air stays remarkably dry. It's going to allow for some cooling in any place where the wind can settle down, as we won't have any clouds of note overhead. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, I think we'll once again be pretty comfortably cool here along the I-25 corridor with 50s. And once you get up into the high country, a lot of 30s. Leadville, Gunnison, Alamosa, all going down into the 30s. Warmest temperatures will once again be found over the far eastern plains, where we're going to have some 60s. That's a dry, crisp atmosphere out there as seen from Highway 115 in Turkey Creek. You can just see forever this morning. We'll be tracking some much colder air, by the way, if you don't like this heat we've had recently. Unfortunately, the wind will bring that in. That'll be tomorrow. But with that, we get a chance maybe for a little bit of rain and snow, depending on your elevation. Some real crisp nights coming up. And yeah, I said snow. I didn't say that lightly. I'm trying to avoid saying it, but I had to say it.
Say it ain't snow.
No, it looks like it's going to be, at least in some areas, and we'll talk about that coming up next.
Oh, of course we will. Already, thanks for that, Marty. And the weather was so temperamental yesterday.
Yeah, it would for a minute. Obviously, it would look like, oh, it's going to be okay.
Right.
You know, sun came out, it's getting warm. Obviously, the wind was ridiculous, and then those storms came in and just, made a mess.
I know, it was all gloomy. I was like, ooh, time for some true crime. And then next thing you know, it was sunshine. I was like, okay, Colorado, here we go.
It's crazy. It's Colorado.
Alrighty, thanks, Marty.
You're welcome.
Now, beachgoers.